And we will officially get started. I will start by introducing myself. My name is Brooke Bollinger. I am Director of Graduate Studies for the College of Education. My role is meant to be a liaison for our prospective and current students as they apply, as they work with the grad school on policies and procedures, and then to be, once a student matriculates into the College of Ed, I am meant to be a support system for any student concerns, questions about how to navigate processes in general. And so we created this webinar series for prospective Bengals in order to talk about key topics associated with enrollment management. So far this fall, we have had virtual information nights. We have had 3 general overview nights for the College of Ed, where we talked about our programs, the 18 graduate programs, and College of Ed structure in general. And then once a month, I am hosting a webinar on specific topics. So in the month of September, we had a webinar focused on navigating the application process, and we looked at the ways that the materials required for admission, and we looked at the overall timelines and procedures for for the application side. I am now excited to be hosting this webinar titled Financing Your Graduate Education. And so in a minute, I will introduce our guests to you, but I am thrilled to have them with us because tonight we're going to dive into how to pay for your graduate education. And that means both financial aid or scholarships or other avenues to creatively and wisely perhaps pay for your graduate education. And so that is the purpose of tonight. I felt that this October timeline was helpful because the application priority deadline for spring semester is coming up on November 1st. And therefore, I want you all to be prepared so that when you are accepted, that you can just navigate the tuition side as seamlessly as possible. Before we dive in, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. So I do ask, and I think everyone is doing this, but if you are tuning in tonight, if you can keep your microphone off until the Q&A, that would be helpful. It is up to you whether you have your camera on. Feel free to have it off, but also feel free to have it on. We enjoy seeing everybody, so that's perfect. If you need to come and go throughout the presentation, we understand, that is fine. I anticipate tonight being about 40 minutes, perhaps in total, when we allow time for Q&A. And we're going to actually do something different tonight where, because we have 3 of us presenting, as each person ends their segment, we'll have a Q&A for that segment at that time, about 5 minutes for any of you to ask questions. When we get to the Q&A, you can put your questions into the chat box. That's always helpful, or you can speak up using your microphone. So I am excited to dive in, and I think we'll have others who might join us as this webinar goes on tonight. But our first guest tonight, I have worked with for a long time at Idaho State, and I'm so excited she is here to talk to you about financial aid. And her name is Jody Finnegan, and I am just going to mute my microphone and turn it over to you, Jody. Thank you for being with us.
Sure. Thank you, Brooke. And yes, my name is Jody Finnegan. I'm the Associate Director of Financial Aid here at Idaho State. I've been on the ISU campus for over 30 years now in various positions, including as a student. So I'm an alum of Idaho State. Also spent a little bit of time at U of I, so I have something in common with one of our attendees here tonight. So yes, I will cover federal financial aid and be happy to answer any questions that you may have about that. And now I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
Perfect, we can see it.
Okay, great. So financial aid for graduate students all starts, federal financial aid all starts with applying through the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. This is a process that you would need to go through each academic year of your program. And October is a perfect time to be having this presentation because this is the time that the FAFSA for the next academic year comes available. So on October 1, 2022, the FAFSA application for the 2023-2024 academic year opened. If you are planning to start during the current academic year, spring 2023 or summer 2023, it would actually be the 2022-2023 FAFSA that you would need to complete. So there are 2 FAFSAs open right now in the federal system. For the 22-23 FAFSA, you're actually going to be using 2020 tax and income information. And for next year's FAFSA, you'll be using 2021 tax and income information. We do encourage students to utilize the IRS data retrieval tool that's available inside the FAFSA application to import your tax and income information. This lessens the chances of being selected for verification or having to provide some of the documentation that you may be asked to provide for verification if you happen to be selected. I will say that graduate students tend to not be selected because of the types of aid that you're eligible for, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail here shortly. This application is an online application that you do at fafsa.gov, and you will have to establish an FSA ID and password to be able to electronically sign your FAFSA. It's how you log into the federal systems. And you'll use that same one year after year. And you may already have one established if you were a federal aid applicant or recipient as an undergraduate. And you'll use that same one. So once we receive your FAFSA, the school will determine your cost of attendance or establish a cost of attendance for you. And the financial aid office has to do this because we have to decide how much total aid you could possibly receive. And so we developed this cost of attendance to include components for things that you might expect, like tuition and fees, and books and supplies, but we also include components for room and board, transportation, personal expenses, and for loan fees. Because we've all got to eat and sleep somewhere while we're going to school, and we all have to get to and from school, or if you happen to be doing like an internship or externship as a part of your graduate program, you've got to get to and from there, or possibly even if you're an online student, you may be required to come to campus a few times during the semester for your program. So we include those components in this cost of attendance. So the federal aid programs that graduate students can be considered for consist of loans and work study. And the unsubsidized student loan is the main program available to graduate students. And that loan will have both an annual limit and a lifetime limit. So if you borrowed as an undergraduate, this lifetime limit is going to include what you took out as an undergrad. So it's not an additional $138,500 that's available to you. It would be that amount minus whatever you took out as an undergraduate. That annual limit is the maximum that we can offer you for an academic year. And if you are interested in part-time work while you're going to school, you could say yes to that question on the FAFSA, that you're willing to accept part-time work as a part of your aid package. And that would give us the opportunity to consider you for work study. Work study jobs are listed through the ISU Career Center through their online job listing system called Handshake. And essentially work study jobs work like any other part-time job. You still have to apply for them, interview for them. And if you're hired, the only difference is where the funds are coming from that are paying your salary. So these are funds that are available to help you with possibly with everyday living expenses. They would not be funds that would be available up front to help with paying things like tuition and fees or books and supplies. Loans and work study will require at least half-time enrollment. And for graduate students, that means 5 or more graduate credits per semester to qualify for student loans and work study. Some options for additional financial assistance if that $20,500 in unsubsidized loan is not enough. There is the Graduate Plus loan, which is an additional federal loan program available to graduate students. It does require a credit check and an additional application. In addition to the FAFSA, there is a paper application that we would collect from you to be able to run that credit check to see if you are eligible for that loan. It's not a very in-depth credit check that the U.S. Department of Ed does. If you don't have, some big adverse credit history, most likely it will be approved. So we can award, as I said, up to that financial aid cost of attendance. So your aid package could be comprised of that unsubsidized loan for $20,500, and if there's still room in that financial aid cost of attendance, we could possibly process this Graduate Plus loan to fill in the gap up to that financial aid cost of attendance. And if that's still not enough to meet your needs, we do have this process called actual expenses, where we would collect some documentation from you regarding your actual expenses for housing, utilities, if you've got some commuting costs that are above and beyond what we're calculating in our in the financial aid cost of attendance. If you've got some big like medical expenses or something like that, then we can take those things into consideration and possibly increase your financial aid cost of attendance based on the documentation we collect from you to make room for some additional Graduate Plus loan. And we've got information on our website and the actual paper form for the Graduate Plus loan on our website as well. So, and I've given that web address here. So some other things that you might want to be aware of regarding federal financial aid. We disperse, the earliest we can disperse in fall and spring is 10 days prior to the fall semester start or the spring semester start, or when your classes start. 10 days prior is the maximum we can. So if you happen to be only taking late 8-week classes, we will hold your aid disbursement until 10 days prior to your class start date. So if you're not starting until March next spring, we would be holding that until 10 days prior to that date. We do encourage you to enroll in direct deposit. At ISU, we call that e-refunds, and you do that through your student portal through BagelWeb. And this is the fastest way for you to get your refunds and the extra aid that's not used to pay your tuition. We just encourage you to do that. If you don't enroll in e-refund, then the university is going to be printing change checks, actual printed checks that get mailed to you. And so you'll want to make sure that your mailing address is up to date in your Bangle web so that those checks reach you. But then if you go that route, then you're waiting for snail mail to make it to you. So we do encourage that direct deposit. And I wanted to make sure that you are aware that if you are enrolling in a program that you possibly will attend year round, so you may attend the summer semester. Summer semester at ISU is handled kind of separate from the regular academic year. And so your initial aid offer will be for the regular academic year, fall and spring. Or if you're starting in spring, would be a spring only offer. And if you're wanting to enroll in summer and you will be attending at least half-time, again, that 5 graduate credit minimum, then you could apply for summer aid through a form that we refer to as the summer supplement, which will become available March 1st on our website. Summer is just kind of a little bit of a different process for us, and we have to handle it completely separate. So just know that there's this extra form that will be required if you're wanting aid for summer. You also have to have remaining annual loan eligibility. So if you happen to use up that full $20,500 during the regular academic year of the unsubsidized loan, then it may be only Graduate Plus loan that we can offer you in the summer. So covered a lot of ground there, but I'm to the place here where I'm welcoming any kind of questions that you may have.
And students, future Bengals, please feel free to put any questions in the chat box, or you can unmute your microphone, but we'll do this popcorn style. And I actually have one planted question first, Jody. Could you briefly mention the EISU online programs, which can help some of our students who might live out of state to pay a reduced tuition?
Sure. So there is a list of programs on the ISU website. If you just go to isu.edu and search for EISU programs, you can go there and view a list of programs that qualify for the EISU non-resident tuition waiver. The EISU non-resident tuition waiver has been around for about 10 years now, and students who are in a qualifying program who are non-resident will automatically be awarded this EISU non-resident tuition waiver. There's no extra paperwork. All the student has to do is get registered for all online courses and remain in that eligible program, and then they will show up on a report that we get here in the financial aid office of eligible students, and then we just add the waiver automatically. For that waiver, you do not have to be a certain enrollment level. It adjusts based on your enrollment. So you can be in just 1 credit, or you can be in full-time. It doesn't matter. Provided that you remain in all online courses, it will just carry forward throughout your time in that program. With the caveat that ISU administration renews that policy or business process each year. And so as far as I know, they plan to renew it. I haven't been told that it's possibly going away, but I've always been told also we can't promise it beyond the current academic year that it's been approved. So each year in April, they let me know if it's going to be continued for the next academic year.
Thank you, Jody. And I have put a list of the programs in the chat box. The reason I did so is that a number of our College of Education programs, both at the master's and doctoral level, are listed within this category. And so I share this with our students, future students, so that they can be aware that this might help them greatly. And as Jody said, this will be, if it is renewed, and we're hoping so, of course, it would be April. So the notification of being able to utilize that resource would be forthcoming later.
And just wanted to make sure that you're aware that if you are a non-resident student that is utilizing this EISU non-resident tuition waiver, you will see non-resident tuition charges on your student account, but this waiver is paying what's considered the non-resident portion of those charges. So I think some students expect to not see those charges at all when they know they're in one of these eligible programs, but they get a little confused. They're like, seems like you're charging me too much, but this waiver is going to pay a portion of those charges, a big portion of those charges.
Any other financial aid related questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So this is I haven't done any research into financial aid for grad school at all. This is my very first taste of this. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So there's only loans are available for grad students through FAFSA, because for undergrad, it's like grants, right?
Right, yes, only loans and work study are what graduate students are limited to.
Okay.
Very important question. Thank you, Isa. All right, I did the teacher pause for 13 seconds. So we will go into our next segment, but Jody, thank you for the information. Thank you for being with us. And students, you can email me any other financial aid related questions. And perhaps Jody, can you just in the chat box add your email address and they can email you directly as well? All right, thank you, Jody, so much. Jody, you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to have your evening. I notice you're still at your desk, so feel free to stay but we thank you for being with us. All right, our next presenter is another colleague of mine from ISU. Obviously, we both work at ISU, but have worked with him for a long time as well. Adam Smith from the Scholarship Office. Adam, thank you for joining us.
You bet. Thanks, Brooke. I'm going to share my screen real quick and then we'll get my presentation about scholarships going. So this kind of goes for federal financial aid, like Isa asked, there's really only loans, right? There's only grad plus loan, unsubsidized loan, and then work study. But graduate students at ISU are still eligible for scholarships. Some of our big scholarships, I don't know if you both are residents or if the people watching this will be residents, but we have non-resident and resident based scholarships. So I'm going to start with the non-resident ones, and then I'm going to kind of go into where residents might get theirs. So our NRTWs are the non-resident tuition waivers. They're really good for a lot of our programs that are not considered oversubscribed. Most of those programs are in the health field, so education doesn't really have to worry about that. But what this is an automatic scholarship where we will send out a questionnaire to the students, and it weighs all the non-resident tuition and fees. So you basically just end up paying the resident rate. And for grad students, it's just for a 1 year timeline. It's just for the fall and spring. But if you need it again for the following years, you can apply for it again. We can request it. So the rules, you have to be admitted to ISU by our deadlines. We have a June 1st priority deadline for graduate students to get the waiver. That does not mean that you're going to get it. It just means that that's our priority deadline and we'd like you to be admitted there. We have a limited number of these waivers, so we end up awarding them to, the highest GPAs coming in and that sort of stuff. And if we end up running out, then we can't award them after that. since I've been working in scholarships for quite a while, I have not seen us run out of these. So if you need a waiver, it's very possible that we can get you one. But just know that June 1st for the fall semester and then November 1st for our upcoming spring semester is what we consider our priority deadlines. If for whatever reason you weren't offered a waiver and you think that you should have had one, I recommend reaching out to the scholarship office. I can personally review it and see just kind of what's going on and if potentially there would be some sort of waiver there for you. So these are mostly for new incoming graduate students. Like I said, continuing students can get it, but since this is a recruiting one, we'll just stick to the new students. We'd like you to have a 3.5 or above, but depending on how many students we get in, and this is for the entire university, not just the College of Education, but depending on how many students we get in that needs one of these, we will lower it down to award students. So I think this last year we went to a 3.0. Usually it's around a 3.2, 3.3. That is the cutoff, and that's your admitted graduate GPA to the programs. So that's what we go off of. The process for our non-resident tuition waivers is in BOSS, which I'll talk about that a little bit, but that's our Bengal Online Scholarship System. So what ends up happening is we send out a questionnaire to pretty much every new student saying, hey, do you need a non-resident tuition waiver if you're getting your graduate assistantship, or you have some other waiver, or you're actually going to be an Idaho resident or something like that? You can answer no to it, and that's pretty much where the process will end. If you answer yes, I do need that to the questionnaire, then we'll actually make the offer to all the students that answer yes. So we kind of compile it and then make the offer. Usually this happens within a week based on, well, I should say a week from the student accepting the award, is accepting the questionnaire. We started doing this in February for the fall semester. I've already sent them out for this spring semester. So if you get awarded, I've been looking at these kind of on a continuous rolling process where I'll send out the questionnaires depending on our availability. So you say yes to this and you answer the questionnaire, then in BOSS, you're going to get an offer letter or an offer that is going to be the actual scholarship for that year. So then you have some post-acceptance questions, you accept it in BOSS, which is the Bengal Online Scholarship System, like I said, and you're able to get a non-resident tuition waiver, which is really good. Saves a lot of money. Right now it's for about $17,890 is what the non-resident tuition rate is. So getting a waiver or getting some type of waiver is really important. Graduate students can seek residency after their first year if they've lived in Idaho for 12 months, and they just need to contact the residency specialist, which is in the office of the registrar. We recommend students do this because then you don't have to worry about getting a waiver the next year since they are limited, and then you're already just paying in-state tuition. So for our non-resident students, this is really good. You do have to be full-time to get the waiver, which is 9 graduate credits. We do not award the waiver to students who are not full-time. Another option for non-resident kind of reduction is what we call the WRGP. This is a WICHE program. So if you've heard of the WUI for undergrads, the WRGP is kind of the WUI for graduate students. And this runs through the Office of Finances, so our cashier's office basically, and the departments, and they work together to find the students who are eligible for it. But I have a list here of some of the programs in the College of Education that I know are WRGP eligible. So if you're planning on going to one of these, you're from a Western state and you're a non-resident, there's a really good chance that you can get this WRGP, which will help waive your non-resident tuition, and then you'll just be paying the in-state rate, which is much more affordable. So going back to the Bengal Online Scholarship System, which I mentioned twice now, this is where you're going to apply for all of your scholarships for the most part at ISU. Institutional and department-based scholarships are located in here. If you have not applied already to ISU and you don't have like a Bengal ID or anything like that, you can still see our information. So if you follow that link to isu.academicworks.com, we have it also all over our website, on the scholarship website, where you can sign in. Once you get a username and password, you can sign in and start applying. Usually, the busiest time in BOSS is going to be for the upcoming fall semester. That's when we have the vast majority of our scholarships open, and you're going to be applying in January through May, and that's when you're going to have the most of them. We do open it up again, and it's always open, but we do have more opportunities available coming in during the spring or the fall semester for the spring semester. So if you're planning on being a spring student, jump into BOSS if you already have your username and password, and just see if there's anything available there for you. You get an acceptance you basically apply, you get an acceptance, and then you accept it in there, kind of like the non-resident tuition waiver. So speak a little bit more about the process in Boss, just so it's a little less confusing. What happens is when you log in, you're going to get a general application first, and this is just a really basic application asking your name, your major, your expected graduation date, things like that. Just really kind of yes, no questions, some demographics and stuff. And then you apply to that, and that automatically applies you to about 50 scholarships. For grad students, it's probably a little less because a lot of those are undergrad only. So it's probably about 10 maybe that grad students are eligible for in that initial one, but it's still a really quick application for 10 scholarships that you could get. The second thing that happens for the College of Education is they have what we call the conditional application. And what this is another one basically application. It's just one application. You answer the questions in there, you fill out your major, you do all that, and then that one is also going to automatically apply you to numerous scholarships on there. There's a lot more in there for the grad students than on the general application, just because it's specifically for the College of Ed. So you go in there, fill it out, and get it submitted. Last year, those were open in February and closed in March. So if you're planning on a fall semester to get in, getting in and getting accepted early is probably really important for scholarships. If you miss the deadline on that one, it's always possible that there are more that open up, or there are some different types of scholarships that open up. So that's our general and conditional app, and those will be the two of the major ways to get your most major related and kind of demographics related ones. We have a bunch of other standalone scholarships where it might hit you specifically. Some people it might not apply to, but those are what we call apply to scholarships, where you actually fill it out for that scholarship specifically. Education has one called the Taylor Fellowship, which is really good. I think last year we awarded about $4,500 in that one to a couple students, and that's for graduate students only. So that was open in April and closed in June, and we were able to award it. We also get donor-based scholarships all the time. We had a really generous donor last year give us a lot of money for education, which was wonderful to see. And stuff like that comes in, and sometimes we give awards out based on that. But this is kind of the general way that you're going to get it. Go through the general application, then the conditional application, and any apply tos that you see there that might apply specifically to your situation. So that's pretty much the gist for scholarships. We take outside scholarships if you have any. They just send checks to the scholarship office. But if there are any questions or anything, I'm more than happy to answer them right now. I also work in financial aid, so if you thought of a financial aid question after Jody left, I can also help answer those too. So feel free to shoot it my way.
Thank you, Adam. And just like before, you can put your question in the chat box or turn off your mic and just ask.
So I guess I do have a question. I haven't been accepted yet, and I'm just wondering if it would be a good time to get this process started with a whole FAFSA, and or should I wait until I hear that I've been accepted?
Yeah, so the FAFSA you can do at any time, and then you can even change it. So I would say get that done as much as possible. Scholarships, getting accepted earlier helps more because then you don't miss deadlines for them.
So with the scholarships, you said that you need a username and to be able to log in. Like, how would I get that beforehand, I guess, is my question.
So you actually, to log in, you need the username. You can't do it until you get accepted into ISU, but you can, with that link there, you can look at some of the scholarships that are open and some of the scholarships that had closed previously to see, hey, what scholarships are out there for me. You can filter by education, and that'll pull up a lot of the education scholarships just by that filter. So that's a good way to kind of search without having a login.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I added I know you had asked Jody to add her email to the chat box. I added my email there too. So if you have questions about that, feel free to shoot me an email and I can help answer them.
So I don't know if you can see me now. I did my camera.
And
Oh, you can? Okay. I hope I look okay.
I'm
Tally, by the way. Issa's my daughter. I don't know why her information popped up when I opened Zoom, but the general application and the conditional application, that's done in February.
So the general application, the minute you kind of sign in your first time to Boss, you'll do a general application. The awards are usually given out in May, so doing it early is important, but you're gonna have to do it each year that you're in the program. So if you have a multi-year program, you'll do it whatever academic years you're going. If you just come in for this upcoming spring, you'll do it right away once you log into Boss.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm planning on going on spring starting in spring. So it is worth my time to go ahead and do the general application and the conditional one as well.
The conditional won't be open until spring.
Okay.
So for the next fall,
Okay.
unless we get some additional scholarships on there that we have to open it up with. That's why it's important to keep checking Boss. I would say it doesn't have to be like every week, but maybe every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, just log in, see if there's anything new. But yeah, you'll do your general application, and then we do have some apply tos open. I don't know if we have any specifically for grad students in College of Education, or if we just have more general based ones, but you can apply to those ones. It'll show you if you're eligible and stuff in there. So
Okay.
Those are great questions. I'm so glad you both asked those, and because now we have this on record for others as well. Well, if there aren't any other questions, then I just want to thank Adam again for joining us tonight. Thank you for your time and insight. And thank you for putting your email address into our chat. And students can certainly be in touch with you via email, just like Jody, for questions they think of later.
yep, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Tally and Susie, feel free to stay on with me. So I am now going to share my screen, and let me do that now. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Maybe a thumbs up. Perfect. Okay. So I wanted to point out to you, I will be talking now about graduate assistantships briefly, but I first wanted to share with you all a reminder of the graduate school webpage. I feel that their website is a phenomenal go-to resource for you to find some of the things that we were talking about tonight. So when you go to the Funding and Support tab, many of these topics are found here. So Adam talked about the non-resident tuition waiver, the Western Regional Graduate Program, and other regional resources to have in-state tuition. There's a link to the scholarship page. There is a link to even outside funding and external scholarships. So this website here, I am grateful that they've created for you because it is a one-stop shop of things that we're talking about, ways to fund your education. But let's talk now about assistantships. So graduate assistantships are applicable within the College of Education, and these are work positions provided through the college directly and actually through specific departments within the College of Education. More often than not, and actually nearly 100% of these are actually awarded to full-time graduate students. So I'll pause now and talk about that difference. So this type of funding, the assistantship, does require a certain number of hours a week of work. And you can see listed here that these graduate assistantships, and my screen is trying to do something else, but full-time grad assistants are expected to work 19.5 hours per week. So essentially, an assistantship is a work position within the department, typically helping faculty members with research or scholarship initiatives. And so if you decide to go full-time into your grad studies, this can be a way for you to full-time study and part-time work. And so based on the number of work hours required, the maximum hours that an assistant may work in a given semester is 12. Normally, a full-time grad assistant is expected to carry at least 9 graduate credits. So somewhere 9 or 12, depending on the semester, is the expectation. The dean of the grad school can approve more or less with a petition. And so this is a way to be funded. And I'm trying to scroll down now to see if this specifically talks about the payment rate. And I do know that that can vary by department, but these are high-level paid positions. If you have specific questions about the salary associated with a GA, that can vary by year and vary by department at times. There is a standard set forth by the grad school of a minimum salary for graduate assistant positions. And so year by year, that value could change. I mentioned this as an option for you if you are not working elsewhere full-time. And I know within College of Education, so many of our students are holding full-time employment positions, either in K-12 schools or already working within higher education. People within our human resource development masters often are working in business, in private industry, or for nonprofits, for example. And so this is not a best fit for everybody, and that's okay. But for those for whom it is a fit, I encourage you to reach out to the faculty of your program once you are admitted in order to see if you could apply for any GA positions that are open. I will say that one example within College of Ed this year is that we were looking for a graduate assistantship for a Read America program within our Teaching and Educational Studies unit of the College of Education. So that's an example. Working on a grant with that Read America program is something that in the future might become available again. So I mentioned it so you can stay tuned. I have a new newsletter template that is sent out through my office that will be going out to current students. And so as some of you who are prospective students actually enroll and you begin your coursework, we will make you aware of GA opportunities that are perhaps new in a given year, or perhaps a student has rolled off, they've graduated, and that position is just vacant again. So again, a great opportunity to find additional funding sources. All right, our other presenters covered so much of financial aid and scholarships tonight, but I will pause here. We have a few minutes left in our time together. If you have any other application questions or funding questions, I'm happy to sit here and chat with you now tonight.
I don't have any. Thank you. That was really helpful.
Yeah, I don't have anything either. So, but thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that we have this recorded for others who could not be with us. I'm grateful you were here to be able to ask your questions. I really applaud you for being here, taking that time, because I hope this will help make your entry more seamless.
Definitely.
Well, I will stop recording now. Actually, I'll stop recording.